Welcome, everyone. I'm Claire Jones. Happy Saturday. I don't know what day it is for you guys tuning in, but it's a wonderful weekend on this end. I'm Claire Jones. I'm a queer fantasy romance author as well as a small publisher that supports other writers in getting their works shared with the world. And we're jumping on for my Marketing as Authors podcast, where I interview the amazing and inspiring authors in my network to discuss the marketing strategies that have propelled our writing careers forward in meaningful and hopefully productive ways. If you're joining us, please like, comment, share below. Let us know that you're here. And today I'm talking to Nicole Holland. I'm so glad to have you.
Why, hello there. I'm happy to be here.
It's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I was like, maybe if I push this back a little bit past my release, I'll understand marketing better.
You
I'm
know,
working on
are we ever experts, really, at the end of the day?
that. Not me, but I'm trying.
I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast series, is because I have found over the years and years and years that I've been involved in marketing strategies that there's no one way to do it. And no one truly feels like an expert at the end of the day.
If somebody is an expert, I need to talk to them and see exactly what they're doing. So,
And it's kind of a red flag too.
yeah, that's true. Like, what kind of inside info you got over there? You want to give me some?
Like, what kind of snake oil are you selling,
Yeah.
sir, or
Who
ma'am,
do
or
you know?
them? Well, first, let's get a rundown of your books. Like, what are they? How many have you written? And then what is coming up in the future?
So I have self-published three books, and they are all different lengths. So I started with a novella. I did a vampire fantasy romance, um, and then I did a collection of spicy short stories in a variety of genres, which is kind of like a practice for me to try to see if I could do that in different genres rather than just fantasy. And then my first full-length novel came out in early December, and that's the one that I've been trying a lot of the marketing strategies
Hmm.
with. Some things have worked, some things have haven't, but I've been really trying to push that one because it's going to be part of a series with interconnected standalones. So I have
Hmm.
this big world that I created, and I didn't want to just use it for one book. So I'm going to have every book in the future feature different main characters, but there might be little Easter eggs and little
Hmm.
pop-ups from previous characters as we go along. So I
Hmm.
have plans for those. The second book in that series hopefully will come out in May of 2026 because I'm incapable of doing rapid release. It is so difficult. I can't do it.
I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah, every indie author I know that's done rapid release has almost lost their mind, but I do know that's part of what you have to do as an indie to kind of maintain that income flow. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
looking
really
at something
fascinating.
I could do. Yeah.
You were talking about rapid release a few podcasts ago, and like, I could never.
Yeah. Well, not with a full length novel for sure. Possibly novellas, but I know myself and it would be way too stressful. So I'm
Yeah.
just not going to try.
The only way that I can imagine doing it is that if I just spend years writing all of the books and then rapid releasing them instead of writing, releasing, writing, releasing, writing, releasing,
Yeah.
because that seems impossible unless you're Kitty Robert.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how people do it, but good for them.
Yeah. So is this new world for the series separate from the vampire fantasy world that you built?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they're all separate. The My novel is called Shadowbound, and the world for that is or the series is called the Dark Moon series. So that's a big D&D inspired world with a whole bunch of different creatures and characters and magic systems and things like that. So everything is separate. This is the first thing I've started where the next coming books will be related.
Oh my
I'm
God.
very
Talk
excited.
D&D to me, please.
Well, I'm still trying to learn a lot because I don't play in a group in person and I really want to start doing that, but I got into D&D because of Baldur's Gate 3 because I saw
Yeah.
all the Astarian thirst trap videos on
Yeah.
TikTok
Yeah.
and I thought, I've never played any kind of RPG game, so let me try and then just went off the deep end, ended
Yeah.
up getting to meet the voice actor who plays
Oh my
Astarian.
God.
Like he was really cool and it opened my world to D&D. I'm trying to learn a lot more about it. So, do you
Yeah.
play?
Yes, I've been a nerd since 2016. I mean, I was a nerd previous to that, but specifically D&D nerd
D&D
since
nerd. I love it.
2016. My entry was the Critical Role series. I don't know if
Hmm.
you dipped your toe in that at all, but
I
I,
haven't yet, but I started watching The Legend of Vox Machina, so
yes,
I know that that's kind of related.
yes, that's a good entry point because it's short chunks of, 30 to plus episodes, 30-minute plus episodes. If you are an OG critter, you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of content that you have
Yeah.
consumed, and it can be intimidating for outsiders.
When did it start?
2015, that's their 10-year anniversary this year.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Yeah.
got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, and they've been producing a 4-hour Twitch stream every Thursday for 10 years. So if you
That's
can do the math,
dedication.
yeah, I mean, I have a whole D&D podcast where we examine Critical Role, so that's a whole nother podcast, literally.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna
But
have to look at that.
D&D inspires a lot of my writing as well, and I don't think I would have been able to world build to the extent that I've been able to and tell a good story to the extent that I've been able to without
Mhm.
being introduced to D&D as a system.
That's exactly how I feel. I was struggling. I knew I wanted it to be more high fantasy, but I didn't really have a direction. I just knew what I wanted it to be. And then when I started playing video games and started reading more about it, I said, okay, I want something like this. I want the
Mhm.
intricate polytheism. I want all
Mhm.
different types of cool creatures. I want different magic systems. And it was incredibly formative to how this series began.
Yeah.
And I happened to find it at the right time while I was in the entry of drafting Shadowbound.
Mhm.
So it was perfect timing. It's been
Mhm.
a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
I mean, I've been a fan of polytheism since I was a huge ancient Egyptian nerd as a kid
I
as
love
well.
ancient Egypt. It's so interesting.
And so I definitely understand that passion.
Yeah. The Prince of Egypt is one of my favorite movies that I think it has
Man.
the best soundtrack of any animated movie of all time. I will die on that hill.
Yeah.
It is so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I remember getting those like Cleopatra fictional history books when I was young as well.
Mhm.
Like she's a baddie.
Yeah, she is. I have a couple. This is my world building shelf. These two are my
Mhm.
ancient Egypt books right here.
There you go.
I'm
There
like, I'm
you
gonna
go.
learn hieroglyphics. I'm
Yeah.
not sure
Yeah.
exactly for what purpose, but I'm gonna do it.
Because it's fun.
Yeah, because it looks really cool and I want to learn it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, since we're kind of going back in history here, how did the writing career start for you? Like, did your past experiences support transitioning to a writing career, or was it completely out of the blue?
It was more so I started writing to deal with job unhappiness, and I
Mm,
would write little things growing up, but never full stories or anything like that. I was very sporadic. I was a sporadic reader and a writer. And then I was kind of at the peak of my job unhappiness. I couldn't quit yet. I had a couple months left, so I started writing my first book, Rellington. And then I ended up quitting my job because at the time I thought I was going to start a business, a completely unrelated business. And I said, okay, I'll take a few months to chill out from this job that was stressing me out and I'll just write. So Rellington came from that. And then I decided that because of all the stress from the previous job, I didn't want to start a business yet because any business is stressful to
I
start
feel
up.
that. Yeah.
So I kept putting it off. I said, okay, I'll start the business 2 months from now, 3 months from now. And I just kept writing in between then. And now the business is set aside for now, and I'm trying to see if I can make this writing thing work. So thankfully, I'm in a position where I have savings to do that. I have a supportive husband. I have ways that it's okay for me to try this creative thing out. And then if it doesn't work, I'll just have to go get a regular job. I hope
Hmm.
that doesn't happen though, because this is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Have you always been a writer? Like, has that always been something?
It's, I would say, kind of. I was more on the artsy side of
Mhm.
liking to draw. I would draw all the time, and then sometimes I would write down little stories on my teen angst that I didn't even
Yeah.
really have teen
Yeah.
angst.
Yeah.
I had a great life, and I'm like, what am I angsty about? But put the
Thanks
emo
for the sake
music
of Hank.
on, write a sad
Yeah.
poem, and I'm like, my life is great. What am I doing? But I didn't get into fantasy really until 2022. And then it just kind of, again, off the deep end. I have a tendency to do that. If I find something I am interested in, I'm all in. So
Yeah.
here I am now. So kind of it led up to it, but this is definitely the most consistent I've ever been with
Mm.
writing or reading.
So how has it gone? Like, have you been able to achieve what you've wanted to so far? Is there something more down the road?
I have a hard time celebrating my achievements. One of the other girls in my writing group, we kind of have the same thing where if we set a goal and we meet it, we don't always feel very proud of ourselves. We just see it, oh, it's an obligation. I said I was going to do it. I did it. Who cares? And so we're both trying to get better at that and saying, no, you wrote a whole book, you spent a year plus, be nice to yourself and enjoy that. So some things have gone very well. My sales have been much more consistent for this most recent book. And I think that has a lot to do with I do a lot of writing live streams on
Mm,
TikTok. And so I get to
mm.
talk to people while I'm writing. And so I think that connectivity between people, as well as they just are interested in the genre, that has really helped because it's
Interesting.
almost yeah, they're like, this book doesn't really sound exactly up my alley, but I like coming here at night when you're writing because I love to set up my moody lighting and
Yeah, yeah.
have the camera where people can watch me type and like I just like being here. And so sometimes they'll buy it even though it's not really their genre. They just want to support me, which is
Interesting.
really nice. So I've been
Interesting.
trying a few things to not just focus on pushing the book out to get sales, but more of connecting with people
Yeah.
and trying to, not in a manipulative way, but just to show them the process and show how much work goes into it. A lot of people have no idea.
I
Like, why does
mean,
it take 8 months to write a book? I'm like, that's pretty short, actually.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love that you pointed out the connectivity thing and the relational thing when it comes to marketing and connecting with your audiences, because at the end of the day, marketing is building relationships and hopefully genuine, authentic relationships. It's not sales. Like marketing, people think of marketing as just like buy my shit.
Yeah.
So my question for you about the writing lives is like, so you're essentially multitasking. You're having these conversations with people who show up and writing the book at the same time. Like, how do you do that?
Well, sometimes it's effective and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm going to start for this next book because I wrote Shadowbound entirely on writing lives. And that
Wow.
did kind of cause a problem for me because it got to the point where I was thinking if I wasn't showing people I was working, that I wasn't actually being productive, which
Mm,
isn't true.
yeah.
So that's something that I have to work on this year for sure. So I'm going to start doing it where I do 25-minute sessions where I don't talk at all to anybody in the
Mm,
chat. And it'll say up there, the silent section, then we'll chat for 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll do that 3 or 4 times.
hmm.
Because if I get really locked in, I'm not paying attention to what's going
Yeah.
on over here. And people are
Yeah.
like, why are you ignoring me? And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not ignoring you. I'm just in the zone. Somebody's dying in my book right now. I got to
Yeah.
write it properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I lose hours when I'm doing my writing sessions. Like I can't even imagine what it's like to hold a conversation while I'm trying to write.
Yeah, I take a lot of pauses, and that's also probably why it takes me a little bit longer to write things. So
Yeah.
that's part of why I want to find a balance between just doing my own thing, no live stream, nothing like that. And then when I have more time, like right now, I'm showing my world building process because I'm adding a few things in, and
Mm.
people they like to see the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, like what do you talk about? Do you actually show them like the plot of how it's unfolding or like how do you avoid spoilers?
I try not to talk about specifically what's going on. I try to talk about things that I need to look up to reference. I
Mm.
remember I was doing one where I have a critique partner who legitimately knows everything about everything. She
Huh.
read one of my books and I mentioned that the the main character was using a bar of soap in the river to bathe. And she goes, well, if you're going for the medieval time period, it's going to be tallow soap or lye soap. And if you do this, it needs to be this. There's no bubbles if you use this. And I'm just like, and I don't think about those things. So I will talk to the people in the chat. I remember looking up the differences in soap, and I had other people in the chat Googling things with me. They're like, well, if you use the lye soap, here's where you get it from. And then we were talking about the eye coal, like they would use a lot in ancient
Oh,
Egypt. And I
sure, yeah.
said, how do you even make that? So then I start Googling it. Other people are Googling it. We're discussing the history. And they're like, wow, I didn't know that. That was really interesting. So it's they are learning with me and they're seeing that just that one line of she used an eye coal to
Mm-hmm.
darken her. I don't even know what it is that I said of, okay, well, what is it going to be applied with? How is she going to
Mm.
use it? What is it going to be stored in? Thinking about every tiny thing. And people get to see that there's a lot of research into writing a book and
Yeah.
it's not just made up because it's a fantasy genre.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love this because I always encourage people to like bring their audience into the writing room, and you're like literally doing that. Like, I mean it
Yeah.
figuratively, but you mean like
Yeah.
literally doing
Like,
it.
let's go. Let's do it together.
Yeah, that's fascinating because like I try to do like writing montage videos of like,
Yeah.
this is me writing in my chair. However, I have fallen off the bandwagon when it comes to those types of videos. But because they require so much editing, and I just don't do a
Yes.
lot of editing these days.
So much editing and then it takes an hour and then the video flops and you're like, come on. And
Yeah,
I'll post a 10-second video and it gets 20,000 views. I'm
yeah,
like, dude, come
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I am of the opinion that for at least my videos, I do as little editing as possible because I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, it's a lot and you have to be consistent with it. And if I had a real job that I was going to 9 to 5, I wouldn't be able to pump as many videos out and do as much as I do, like videos of what I've learned and what I've tried and things like that. So
Yeah. So is
it can get
TikTok your
overwhelming.
main platform?
Yes. I'm trying to find, I just really don't like Instagram anymore. I used
Hmm.
to like it, but I feel like it's just become this beast that I don't want to mess with. But if we do get into a situation where there's a legitimate ban again for TikTok, I want to transfer the writing lives to Twitch. So I'm trying to work on that.
Interesting.
Um, I have, I used my newsletter that was a website a while back. I transferred that to Discord, which has been
Mm,
great. A lot more sense of community there. And I talk to people there and give them updates and things like that. So trying to find other things where I can branch out in case this goes away because it is my main platform.
yeah. Do you find that your newsletter audience was Discord savvy? Was there any challenge in transferring platforms? Because I know a lot of my audience, at least, is not disconnect. They don't get the Discord norms.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't get Discord, and people kept asking me if I was going to do a Discord. I'm like,
Oh,
well, okay, I
interesting.
guess I got to learn it. And then some, I would kind of not force the current newsletter people. I just said, okay, I'm going to be trying this. Here's what to expect if you want to come over here, rather than kind of copy and pasting their emails or usernames or whatever.
Hmm.
So I don't know statistically exactly how many came over, but when
Mm.
I was asking for ARC readers on this app, I got a huge influx of people who all knew, most of them knew how to use Discord. So I was playing catch up,
Mm.
but it's
Interesting.
worked out really well.
There's
I've
so many
got,
platforms out there nowadays.
yeah, and it can be a lot. I'm just like, oh my gosh, YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Discord, and I miss the days when it was just a couple to choose from. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the evolution of technology for you.
How's Twitch going for you so far?
Oh, I haven't even started it. I've just
Oh,
gotten a username.
I mean, that's the first step, honestly.
Yeah. Oh my, and then I watch a couple people play and it's just overwhelming. And I'm like, all right, I gotta have somebody in my Discord help me out with
Yeah.
Twitch because I'm the old lady now when it comes to technology and I gotta figure it out and have
Yeah.
somebody tell me.
Well, practically, how exactly have you approached the marketing aspects? Like what kind of strategies have worked, what hasn't?
So marketing has been the biggest hill, I guess I would call it, because I really enjoy the creative side of creating the copy to use, but not the analytics of figuring out how to get it to the right people. That's
Mm,
two sides of the brain, and I want to
yeah.
stay on the right brain side, not the left brain side.
Yeah.
Um, so that's been difficult, but I've taken an indie author marketing course. The marketing that I researched for the business that I wanted to start a while back has helped. And the two biggest things that everybody really says is you've got to really narrow down on your ideal reader
Mm,
and you have to have an emotional hook, an emotional connection to them. That's
mm,
what people are consuming products for, is they want to feel something, right? So I've been trying to niche down and go with the D&D side of things,
mm.
because that's a very specific, because dark fantasy romance or just fantasy romance in general is huge.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have tried to make videos where I use the D&D terminology everywhere. In the captions, in the title, I'm audibly saying it.
Mm,
Um, but I also think that because I make other types of videos that the algorithm isn't totally sure what to do with me. I like
mm,
to make videos showing what I've learned from writing craft books or strategies I've tried. And then I like doing skits to dumb audio. So the algorithm is like, what are you trying to do here? What are we pushing out? Are you trying to sell a book? Are you trying to do a skit? Are you trying to teach people something? And
mm-hmm,
I think that might be hindering my reach a little bit, but
mm-hmm,
I also really enjoy doing those three things. So I'm okay taking more of a hit and having to work a little
mm-hmm.
bit harder because I don't want to give those three things up and just focus on selling.
That's fascinating because I've been hearing, when I do a lot of research into what content strategies work, is like, I think you're right in terms of like topic silos. A lot of
Mhm.
people recommend that is like you make one account for this type of topic, you make another account for this type of topic, you make another account for this type of topic, and then you like
Yeah.
silo those topics within those individual accounts. And like, I don't have the bandwidth to manage all of those different accounts.
No, if I had a huge marketing budget, absolutely, but it's just me, so I can't do that either.
Yeah, yeah. So I think of it as like a comprehensive personal brand that has worked to some extent for you.
Yes, yeah, I've tried to do it more, especially with in today's economy when everything costs so much. I am not owed anything. I am not owed somebody purchasing my stuff. If they want to, then that's fantastic. But I try not to view marketing as, hey, I've sent you this kind of touch point 18 times for the love of God, buy my book. It's
Yeah.
everyone has got their own stuff going on. So I don't take it personally. My frustration more so comes with not being able to get the reach when I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing everything right.
Mm-hmm.
And a good ridiculous example was I posted a quote from my book because quotes do very well
Yeah.
on social media. And I put dark fantasy romance everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saying it, quote, everything, hashtags. And then when I looked at the metrics for who the algorithm was pushing that video out to, it was pushing it to people who were searching the JFK files. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with what I said at all. And I threw in the towel that day and said, all right, I don't
Wow.
understand the marketing. I don't understand marketing at all or the algorithm. So that
I
was a
really
rough
want to
day.
see the Venn diagram between JFK and dark romance.
I I know. I'm like, what is happening? There's not even anything, there's not even an acronym or something that could possibly be related. And I had to laugh to keep from crying, but I'm like, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody that likes fantasy books is going to see this because the JFK people are seeing this and they don't know why they're seeing it.
Fascinating. So I'm guessing
But
you didn't get any engagement on that post. It was just views.
it was low views and then kind of the just really low engagement from people who consistently engage with my stuff,
Huh.
which is nice, but um trying to get the new viewership because a lot of times it will push it out to people that it thinks, those first 200 views will engage with
Yeah.
it. And a lot of times it's the same people that consistently engage with my stuff, which is wonderful, but at some point they're going to get tired of it. I've
Yeah.
seen this 15 times,
Yeah.
stop interacting. So I try a lot of things of using a trending sound, of using slideshows, of using video, of trying to do cap cut, not cap cut.
Hmm.
It's a lot of trial and error, and it's
Yeah.
kind of a slow going.
Yeah. I mean, it's all A/B testing at the end of the day. Like I was talking about this. I went to the San Francisco Writers Conference few
Mhm.
weekends ago, and I was talking to another marketer there. And he actually made the point that he didn't think that the like ideal reader avatar piece of advice wasn't applicable anymore. And we were kind of arguing back and forth about it because like I don't know if it's applicable in the way of like demographic avatars, but I think it's
Mhm.
more psychographic avatars that we're talking about
Mhm.
these days. Like
Yeah.
you said, the D&D crowd can't be really boiled down to a certain demographic.
Right.
in terms
It's
of
just
like,
that's the interest versus
yes,
here's 20 to 33 or whatever. It's
yeah,
way wider than that.
yeah, exactly. And demographics are helpful for like ad spend,
Hmm.
but they're not necessarily helpful for like hashtag strategies.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly it.
You
Ad
can't just
spend,
be
it
like
works with that, but
hashtag women.
yeah, like, well, that's pretty vague. And I'm like, I don't care, just show it to somebody, please.
Yeah,
But
yeah. And
yeah.
so you do have to at some point think about your ideal reader avatar, but the way that we think about that avatar, I think, has been shifting over time based on like more traditional marketing strategies.
Hmm. Yeah. So what does he do then? He doesn't
He does a kind
focus
of
on that.
like indie publishing agency framework. And so it's all like in-house. It's kind of like a hybrid publisher, but without retaining any of the rights. Like, and it's all kind of based on the individual services more so. And so
Okay.
marketing is one of those services that they offer there. Um,
Okay.
and we were talking about, he was like, well, do you like A/B testing? And because he was talking about how it takes a while to really dial into your message, but then that message also changes rapidly over time, depending on who you're talking to and like what book you're talking about and so on and so forth. And I just
Hmm.
made the joke that it was like all A/B testing, like even conversations that you're having with individual readers is A/B testing. It's not just like content A/B testing. It's
Yeah.
messaging as a whole, which I think is so much broader than people think.
Oh yeah. Messaging is a huge blanket, and it's very daunting, and I'm enjoying trying it out. But the A/B testing, like you said, it takes a lot of time and a lot of trial and error. And that can be frustrating when you're an indie not making a whole lot of money and you don't have a rapid release to support you. So
Yeah.
it's kind of it's tough, but I would still rather be doing this every day than being at a job where I used to recline the seat and put on Fast Car by Tracy Chapman and stare up at the ceiling
Ah,
and
ah,
cry.
oh, I love
So
that.
I'd much rather be floundering in marketing than doing that.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the messaging also goes beyond just like the verbal words that you're using. But I liked the point that you made earlier in terms of like your moody writing lighting,
hmm,
because I think that that's also part of the messaging, also part of the brand image.
yeah.
So, how did you come to that? Was that just something you discovered along the way, or was that an intentional move?
It's pretty intentional because I write the same type of moody, dark vibe kind of things. But I've just always I've been a night owl forever, and so I never put the big light on because I
Yes,
hate it.
no, we don't do big
So
lights in this house.
yeah, I've got any kind of warm lighting here. I've got lights over here. I've got a salt lamp over there. Anything to make it really orange and candles. And what was really surprising is that when I first started doing this, people would they would tell me that they would stay there because it helped them go to sleep. And I thought, okay, well, maybe
Mm,
I'm being really boring and they're not liking it.
mm,
But they were saying there's a lot of chaos on the internet, and you give me a calm, open space where you can talk nicely to people and it's relaxing. And I have a little waterfall, Zen waterfall sometimes that I put on. And they're like, I want to support your books just because you give me a safe place that I feel like I can go to when my life is chaotic, which is so nice.
I love that.
So people have made me cry saying that kind of stuff. But
I love that. I mean, what I'm taking away from this conversation is that it is all about the emotion that you provide for your readers. And
mhm,
I try to convey that to people so much. And there's just, I don't think a lot of people understand that it's an emotional bond with your
mhm,
readers, not just like a topic bond.
exactly. Yeah. It's much deeper than just the surface topic or the surface genre.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I talk to a lot of people who are writing nonfiction and like business and like self-help and personal development as well. And I'm
Hmm.
like, but it's still the emotion that you are generating within your reader. Like, are you inspiring them? Are you motivating them? Are you healing them?
Yeah.
And I think fantasy can do a lot of that as well.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it's kind of I feel like as the author, it's we have to show readers what we're offering them, not expecting them to purchase something just because it's available.
Yeah.
Saying here, this might help you with this. if you struggle with this, this might help you. And thinking of it more as how can you be helpful to the consumer rather than just thinking about them as a number and pushing X
Hmm.
amount of books too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to work on making sure I stay zoned in on that and not getting frustrated on days where I make a couple of videos and they absolutely flop and I just have to take a step back and say I'm not owed anything. I'm still learning this. I'm still trying it out. Don't get too frustrated. Just try again later.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have, because you focus mostly content as your marketing strategy. You don't do ads or anything like that?
I haven't dipped my toes into any paid advertising yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Any in-person event stuff that you do?
I'm working on, I talked to a local bookstore owner. They have a romance bookstore bar that just
Hmm.
opened recently in my
That sounds
area.
fun.
So, yeah, it was really cool. They had a Galentine's event that
Oh,
my
cute.
writing group and I went to, and I found out that the daughter-in-law of the owner was one of my ARC readers for my book
Oh,
that just came out. I'm like, what a small world. So she's like,
wild.
yeah, bring your books by. We'll get them in the store. I have one book in my local library. I'm I don't know if I want to do author events yet because from what I've researched is you don't really make your money back unless you're a big name,
Hmm.
and I'm not a big name. So I tried to do other marketing strategies. I sold PR boxes on TikTok Shop where I had a lot of handmade things. You got a copy of the book, you got character art, and that worked really well because I was able to sell direct, make a little bit
Hmm.
more money, and give people more personal stuff rather than just ordering off Amazon or downloading it in the Kindle store.
Hmm. So for the content, have you had any content that you would consider has gone viral? Is that something that you're aiming towards, or is that part of your strategy at all?
The content that I have that goes viral doesn't really correlate too strongly to my book unless I'm talking about my problems. I'm talking about the because that video that I made saying I put dark fantasy romance in all of my captions and everything or whatever, and other authors are like, "Oh my God, exactly. Why is it showing the JFK files when you're talking about a romance book?" And so that'll get 15,000 views or something like that. But people like to see failure, not because they want to see you fail, but because it makes you more relatable.
Yeah, yeah.
So they like that. And then I'm kind of trying to work out a couple different things of if the slideshows work for me or not. Right now, they're not really working for me, but I try to see what other indies are doing, keep an eye on them, and then not exactly copy them, but try a similar strategy, see what works. And it's the A/B, it's the trial and error
Hmm.
phase, and it's you've got to have it's that immediate 2 second hook
Hmm.
of attention span. That's what I think I struggle with because you can look at the analytics and see when people drop off.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to really get an emotional hook, really get narrowed in on the audience, and it's just going to take time for me
Hmm.
to do that.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about virality lately, which is why I asked that question, because I think a lot of people aim towards viral content. Like that's the goal of creating content, and they feel like they're a failure if they don't reach virality.
Yeah.
But with a lot of the people that I speak to who have seemingly viral content, and I've experienced this myself as well with content that has gone viral, quote unquote, is that it's not really helpful in the long term.
Yeah. Unless you're consistently being viral or going viral. Yeah.
Yeah, because it brings in an audience that's not necessarily aligned with what you're trying to do with the content that you're making.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, and people sometimes think that because I have a decent following on TikTok, that means that I have a ton of purchases. And I try to tell people the number of followers is not going to correlate to purchases. Now
Mm,
it's easier because more people are seeing my stuff, and so I have a little bit better reach, but I don't look at it as okay, I have X amount of followers. This percentage should be purchasing from me because you
mm,
never know exactly why people are watching you either. It could just be, they just like to see the dumb skits that I do and they're not really interested in the book. So,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's so important because people think that the bigger the better sometimes when it comes to
Mhm.
audiences. And it really depends on the quality of your audience and whether you're tapping into those emotional bonds and those relational bonds more so
Mhm.
than just the sheer number.
Yeah. I think marketing is very much a slow and steady and not, it's like losing weight. You can drop 20
Yeah.
pounds pretty quickly, but that's not sustainable if you're making little, increments along the way of progress, then you're going to have long-term longevity. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's the big lesson that you could give that would might be helpful to our audiences?
most of your marketing is not going to work, but
Yes.
but keep trying anyway, and don't let it discourage you for too long. And just think about it as it's really hard not to get discouraged sometimes when it doesn't work, but just practicing, just trying to figure out what works. I would say, especially this year for me, has been a big learning year where
Mm,
when it comes to writing, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to everything. There are so many different strategies that you never know what is going to work for you. So don't be closed off to one thing. You're like, oh, my audience might not like that. You might be surprised what people like to see. So I would say keep an open mind, be consistent, let yourself be frustrated, but don't let yourself give up. It's the steady grind. You just got to keep going and build that community and build those relationships.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I run into so many people who are like, I could never do TikTok. And I'm like, but have you tried?
Yeah. Like, you never know. Some people like very specific things. And if that's something you like to do, you might get a whole viewership you never would have had before if you didn't try it.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
if I try and fail, I'm in the exact same position I'm in right now. If I try and
Yeah,
succeed, who knows what's going to happen? I would look at it
absolutely.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
because the time's gonna pass either way.
yeah, it's like I don't have a problem with failure at all. And a lot of people will come into the lives and say, I'm a first time writer. I'm worried about it being bad. I don't want the book to flop. And I'm like, look, your first draft's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Your first book might flop, but it's okay because if you're trying something and you fail, you at least got that knowledge going up to it and you're still in the exact same spot. So what do you really have to lose? Because what if you try and it works out? Then you get everything you ever wanted, but you never would know if you didn't try it. So
Yeah. My
try to look at
whole
it that way.
my whole approach to marketing changed when I started to think of myself as a mad scientist.
Yeah.
Of being like, what happens when I pull this lever? Oh, okay, that's interesting. What happens if I twist this knob? Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
then like, let's mix these chemicals together and oops, I blew up my workshop. Well, I'll learn the lesson and move on.
Yeah. You have to play the what if game because you never know what's going to work.
Yeah.
And I think that's you have to do that in writing too. And I that's one of the more fun aspects of fantasy because I'll say, well, what if they're going into the woods, but what if all the animals spit acid? How would that affect the characters? What if this happened? What if and just playing around with scenes and playing around with it in the same way you would in marketing? What if this
Yeah.
works? What if it doesn't?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Excellent. Well, anything you want to add before we start wrapping up?
um, I don't think so. I hope that didn't come off as discouraging of that most of your marketing's not going to work. It's just realistic, but just keep going and keep trying, and it will pay off in the end. I will say I have had consistent Kindle Unlimited reads for the book that I just released, which has not happened before for the past 3 months. Um, and because I think of the uh, way that I interacted with my audience. I had that book in the top 100 on Amazon for new releases for 2 months, which is crazy
Wow.
because normally it'll stay there for the first few days when people are buying it and then it
Yeah.
drops off. So those were accomplishments that I try to work on being proud of myself for, but
Yeah.
it's so much prep work for a smaller amount of payoff, but it's still payoff and you have to look
Yeah.
at it like that.
Yeah, yeah. You have to start the whole marketing journey far before the book releases. So many people
Yes.
think that the marketing journey starts after the book releases, and I'm like, no, 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 no. No.
Yeah. I mean, it could, but then you're going to spend way longer trying to catch up versus you
Yeah,
start it beforehand. Mm.
yeah, yeah. And I love the idea of bringing people into the writer's room. Like, I have considered doing lives while I'm writing before, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I get so much in my mind palace that I don't know if I could actually interact with people while I'm writing.
Well, you could do those silent lives. A lot of people like that because they just like to
Yeah.
hear music and watch someone work, and it is enjoyable to them. So it's about
Mhm.
being true to yourself and what you want to show people,
Yeah.
and also what you think, people might want to see and finding that balance.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thanks for inspiring me. I'm sure others have been
Oh,
inspired by this as well.
well, thank you.
This is powerful stuff that we're talking about. I always love these conversations. They almost feel like a little therapy too at the same time.
Yep. Yep.
Audience, We definitely encourage you to share your own thoughts, feelings, insights, and stories with us as well. We'd love to know how strategies like these have impacted you in your own careers or what you took away from this. I mean, I'm definitely going to maybe, possibly, perhaps dip my toe into writing letters.
I love that. Definitely, maybe, possibly, perhaps. I love it.
Please do let us know if you have any questions about what we talked about. We'd be happy to answer them. These marketing conversations often throw out a lot of vocabulary that people may or may not be familiar with. And so I'm always happy to be the glossary if you need a little more explanation on a few of the things that we talked about. Special thanks to Nicole for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it. Thank you for caring at all what I have to say. This has been
Yeah.
very fun.
I mean, everyone's journey is unique. That's the whole point. Like, there's
Mhm.
no right or wrong way at the end of the day. I mean, maybe the wrong way is just like hating on people, maybe.
Yeah,
Mm.
no time for that.
Yeah, no time for haters.
Yeah.
Please comment, like, subscribe below. Check out Linktree/Claire Joyance for all of my links. And then, Nicole, where can folks find out more about you?
I am on TikTok as author Nicole Holland, but my technical username is bookish underscore heartbreak.
There you go. And I'll make sure those links are easily available on all the different platforms. Until next time, please remember that you all have extraordinary stories to share, and we're rooting for you as you use them to change the world for the better. Take care, everyone.
Bye.